Today's Ancient DOS game is Space Quest Chapter 1, the Sarian Encounter. And forgive me if I sound like I'm dying because I'm still recovering from whatever nasty viruses decided to wreak havoc with my biological functions last week. In any case, Space Quest is one of the pivotal adventure titles to come out of Sierra, leading to numerous sequels and even a VGA remake of the original game, which unfortunately I don't have. But from what I understand, it's the same sort of deal as with Leisure Suit Larry, supporting updated graphics and a mouse-driven interface instead of a text parser. Space Quest isn't a bad adventure game by any means, but it is incredibly linear compared to most adventure games, and you're going to find very few reasons to play it over again as a result. Anyways, let's take a look at those game stats. Space Quest was originally developed by two guys from Andromeda, whose actual names are Scott Murphy and Mark Crow, and was published by Sierra Online in 1986. It's a one-player inventory-based adventure game featuring support for multiple graphics modes in both PC speaker and Tandy 3 voice sound. Because the Tandy sound only works with the Tandy graphics mode, that's the mode I recommend you use. As for its current release date, it's still commercial and there are way too many options available for getting this game, and it can be really confusing whether or not you're going to get the original EGA game or the 1991 VGA remake. So here's what I've been able to figure out. If you want the original EGA game, like the one you see on screen, then point your way over to the Good Old Games website at www.gog.com, where you can get the first 3 Space Quest games as a package together for $10. If you want the VGA remake instead, then your best option is to head to www.steampowered.com to get their Space Quest collection, which includes all 6 games of the series, for $20. Now, you might be a little confused about this because the manual that Steam provides for their collection is actually the manual for the Roger Wilco Unclogged collection from 1995, which includes both versions of the original game, but not Space Quest 6, the last in the series. Now speaking of, if you want both versions in one package, your only real options are to get either the 1994 Space Quest Collector's Edition or the Roger Wilco Unclogged collection from 1995, as all other Space Quest collections only include the VGA remake. Unfortunately, these particular collections are hard to find, and when you do find them, they're not cheap, running between $20 and $50. Really, if you want both versions, just buy both the GOG.com and Steam collections together. Yeah, it's $30 to do that, but you're also getting every canonical Space Quest game in the process, as opposed to spending just as much on a physical collection that doesn't have them all. As far as the story is concerned, it's surprisingly simple for a science fiction adventure, taking place in a galaxy far from our own, where a sun is slowly dying. The inhabitants of the planet Xenon, desperate to find a way around this problem, develop a device known as the Star Generator, which, quite simply, is capable of transforming planets into stars. The intent is to use it on a lifeless planet to create a new star to provide heat and energy for many generations to come. Final construction and testing of the Star Generator was completed successfully on the spaceship Arcada, but on its way back home, the ship is attacked by an evil race known as the Sarians, who want the Star Generator for their own demented purposes. You play the role of Roger Wilco, one of the crew members of the Arcada. You serve not as captain, not as lieutenant, not even as ensign. Your rank is janitor. Yeah, the galaxy's screwed. Actually, a common misconception is that the name Roger Wilco didn't appear until the sequels, especially considering the game has you enter your own name at the start. But should you leave the name field blank, your name is indeed set to Roger Wilco, and even the manual calls the protagonist as such. But yeah, since this is an inventory-based adventure game, and since my throat kinda hates me right now, I'm not going to be talking too much about the story. As I stated at the start, the story is incredibly linear, and the last thing I want to do is spoil it, really. One thing I can say about it, though, is that it essentially takes place across 4 areas: the Arcada, the deserts of planet Corona, the Ulens Flats on the same planet, and finally the Deltar, the Sarian battlecruiser which captured the Star Generator at the start of the game. Now, like with King's Quest and Leisure Suit Larry, the game uses Sierra's adventure game interpreter engine, where you move around with the numeric keypad and use the text parser to type in the exact actions that you want to perform. However, since this is one of the earlier titles to use the AGI engine, you sometimes need to be extremely specific about how you want to do something. For instance, when you want to use the coupons in the ULens flats, you need to specifically type in the command show coupon. Pretty much anything else won't work. Oh yeah, the coupons. One of the neat things about this game, which leads into another misconception, were these two real, physical coupons included in the box, which you would use in the game to get a free beer and discounts on the droids. Since they're not actually inventory items at any point in time, you'd have to know that the game came with these physical coupons to know that you could simply use them in the game without having to acquire them. This leads to a misconception that these coupons are considered a form of copy protection. You see, you primarily acquire money in the ULens flats by using a slot machine, but once you hit 250 buckazoids, the machine breaks down. Now 250 also happens to be the exact amount you will need to get off the planet if you use the droid discount coupon. However, if you ever drop below 250 buckazoids, the slot machine will once again be working, and there's nothing saying you can't simply buy the things you need the moment you can afford them instead of waiting for the machine to break down. And really, the coupons were simply a form of convenience, since without them, you'd have to run the slots multiple times. And besides, the game had disc-based copy protection, where if it doesn't detect the original disc, you don't get to play it, so what does it even matter? Actually, because of how linear the game is, there are a plethora of Walking Dead scenarios that can occur, so you need to be sure to keep multiple saves in case you forget to do something or make a mistake which you can't go back and resolve. And it's about the only thing I don't like about this game. Well, that and the sand skimmer sequence. And I come to think of it, I would be really surprised if anyone liked the sand skimmer sequence. Basically, when heading for the ULens flats, you travel by a special vehicle known as the Sand Skimmer, and have to dodge rocks which pop up with little chance to react to them, and if you hit 5 of them, you crash and die. This sequence is long and tedious, and routinely comes down to luck, so I recommend saving every time you survive a couple moments without hitting anything. Trust me, surviving this sequence from start to finish in one go is a stroke of fortune, not skill. One thing that's pretty cool though is that once you get up to the Sarian battlecruiser, the Deltar, you eventually get a gun you can shoot. And what's fun about this is that it becomes a game of quick draw. When you enter a screen and a Sarian is present, or a Sarian walks on screen after you, you have to press the F6 key lightning fast, otherwise the Sarian will shoot you instead and zap you out of existence. Though really, you can just keep hitting F6 repeatedly when you change screens, and that actually tends to work much better. Nothing much more to say about the game, really. I mean, I could go into depth about its attempts at humor and its spoofs and legal issues and versions and such, but it's kind of hard to comment on those things in a concise way. And my throat's really beginning to hate me now, so I'm going to draw things to a close. What it basically comes down to is that Space Quest is one of the better Sierra AGI titles, despite its flaws, and worth a playthrough if you enjoy Sierra's AGI games or inventory-based adventure games in general. DOSBox settings are simple enough, just leave cycle set to auto and set the machine type to Tandy to get the enhanced Tandy 3-voice sound effects and music. Also, if for some mysterious reason you want to use the game's joystick support, you need to turn off timed intervals. Now just with all other AGI titles, the joystick support is primarily for PC Junior users, since they lacked a numeric keypad. Really, controlling the game with a joystick while typing things in at the same time on the keyboard, it's just plain awkward. Anywho, that's all for today's episode of Ancient DOS Games. Sorry my voice is still knackered, but hopefully it'll be better for next week. And I was going to do a pretty epic game, but I think I should push it back an episode. So instead, next week I'm going to take a look at a simple game. One that has everything to do with Pac-Man, but nothing to do with compact discs. And if you know what game that is, then send your guess to adg@pixelships.com and tune in next Saturday as we finally take a look at a Pac-Man clone.